Hi, in this lecture you will learn how to use the conditional predicates. As you can see in this trigger example, it is activated for both insert, delete, and update events. But there is a problem here. For example, I may want to make different operations for inserts or deletes or updates. I want to take different actions for each of them or single one. However, this trigger is fired for each one, so it seems I cannot distinguish the business here. Yes, it's fired by any DML operations, but there are two ways to distinguish them. The first one is, as you can guess, the basic one. Instead of creating a trigger for all three events, you can easily make three different triggers with the same timing and different events. So you can do different operations in them. For example, you can have one before insert trigger, one before update, and one before delete triggers separately. So you can do a different business logic at each trigger. So you can achieve your goal with this way. But this time you will have so many triggers, and this is not very good. It will be better to collect them into one trigger. Instead of creating multiple triggers, you can use the conditional predicates to distinguish the DML types in your single trigger, and it is very easy. The only thing is using an if statement and the conditional predicates. So what are these conditional predicates? They are deleting, inserting, and updating texts. You can simply write like that. If inserting, do that. If deleting, do that. If updating, do that. It's so easy. Without further ado, let me show you what are they and how they are used on the example. In this example, I will show you how they work. But in the next lectures, you will turn that example to a better real-world example. So let's modify our before row trigger now. We can write our if clause inside of the begin block wherever we want. So let's write it right after the DBMS outputs. I simply write if inserting, then, as you can see here, I simply wrote if inserting then. This inserting text is our conditional predicate. If you did an insert, the trigger will assign the inserting predicate as true. So with this way, the if clause will succeed and the business you write in this if clause will be executed. But here, notice that if it is an update, only the updating predicate is set to true. The others are set to false. Only one predicate will be true at the same time. Great, let's simply print something on the screen. Let's copy the DBMS output and paste in here and insert occurred on employees copy table. Alright, now let's write an if for the updates. I simply write else if updating then. As you can see, we simply write if updating then or else if updating then. It's up to you. Actually, we use else if for the performance here because we know that only one predicate can be true at a time. So even if you do these with three if statements, only one of them will be run. But the program will check every single of them one by one if this if statement is true or not. So this will decrease the performance. Instead, we use else if statements because we know that it checks them from up to bottom, and if one of them is true, the other ones are not checked. So it will work faster. Alright, now let's write its DBMS output too and test it. Let's copy that and paste here and change only the update. Now let's write our deleting predicate. Let's copy that and paste here and change it with deleting, and let's write a delete occurred on employees copy table. And let's write our end if. Perfect. Now let's compile it. And be sure that only the before row trigger is enabled. Otherwise, we will have so many outputs and it will be hard to find ours. Let's clear up here and refresh. And let's disable our after row trigger. So let's run the DML codes. These are the codes that we executed in the previous lecture. So let's first run the delete command. As you can see in the output, it printed our delete text for each row. But the other if clauses are not executed. So now let's run the insert command. Let's clear up and run it. As you can see, this time the insert is executed. For the last, let's execute the update command. Great, it also worked fine. With this way, you can collect all triggers in one. But notice that to collect them in one, all the triggers must be with the same timings and same levels. Alright, this is a good ease, but the most important thing in here is not only that one. The better ease of the conditional predicates is finding the updates of different columns. Yes, I can say that. Do this only if an update occurs in that column. Let me show you easily. I simply copy that and paste here and write if updating inside parentheses I write salary. And let's say an update occurred in the employees copy table and salary column. As you can see, the only thing that you need to do is writing your column name right after the updating text between the parentheses and single quotes. With this way, this if will work only if the salary column is updated. But here there is a problem. Since updating works for all the updates of the columns, this updating salary will not work because we used an else if clause here. So let's correct this. I simply cut that and paste in here before the updating clause. With this way, this if will work only if the salary column is updated. If any other column is updated and salary is not updated, since we wrote updating after this if clause, it will work. But if the salary is updated, this time the next updating will not work. But do not confuse about that. This is related with our else if clause. If we use if clauses instead of else if clause, if an update occurs in the salary column, both updating salary and updating clauses will work. So do not mix that up. Only one of the predicates can be true, but among inserts, updates, and deletes. But both updating and updating with column predicates can be true. Be sure that you understood that well. Alright, now let's compile it. And turn back to the worksheet and run the update command. As you can see, since the update occurred on the salary column, our new else if clause is executed. And since this is an else if clause, the rest is not executed. So let's update the commission percentages, for example. Let's copy that and paste in here and write, let's say commission percentage is equal to 0.1, for example, and run it. As you can see, this time our updating predicate is executed. So that means we can get if a specific column is updated or not. With this way, we can make different checks or do some different works for the update of different columns. Alright, In this lecture, you learned how to use the conditional predicates in your triggers. We made the example simply on the before row trigger, but you can use them with all the other DML trigger types. They are all valid. You can use them within the statement level and row level triggers. So this is the end of this lecture. See you in the next lectures.